It was one of those evenings that seemed to bleed disappointment. The rain fell like cold tears over the small diner's flickering neon sign, reflecting against the window where Ryan Carter sat hunched over a cheap cup of coffee. His eyes were tired, shadowed with sleepless nights and quiet worry. Across from him, his 8-year-old daughter, Sophie, drew smiley faces on a napkin, trying to pretend she didn't notice how her dad kept staring at the unpaid bills peeking from his worn jacket pocket. Ryan was a single father, a construction worker whose life had been reduced to survival after his wife passed away 3 years ago. Every day was a fight between exhaustion and hope. That night, hope seemed to have forgotten him. But fate hadn't. Because just a few tables away, a young woman in a red dress was sitting alone, her trembling hands wrapped around a glass of water. She looked anxious, glancing at the door every few seconds, her makeup smudged from tears she tried to hide. The diner was mostly empty, the only sounds being the clinking of utensils and the whisper of the rain outside. Then, suddenly, a man stormed in, tall, well-dressed, with anger burning in his eyes. He slammed his hand on her table and hissed something that made her shrink back. Everyone turned to look, but no one moved. Except Ryan. He didn't think. He just stood up, walked over, and said, "Hey, man. That's enough." His voice was calm but firm, the kind that carried quiet authority. The man snapped, threatening him, calling the woman names. But Ryan didn't back down. He positioned himself between her and the man. "You should leave," he said again. The man cursed under his breath and, seeing the attention gathering, finally stormed out. The woman sat frozen, shaking, eyes wide with disbelief. Ryan offered her his napkin. "You okay?" She nodded weakly, whispering, "Thank you. I didn't think anyone would step in." He gave a small smile. Nobody deserves to be treated like that. For a moment, the two strangers shared an unspoken understanding that sometimes kindness comes from the most unexpected people. As she gathered her things to leave, she looked back and said, "My name's Claire. I won't forget this." Ryan waved it off, went back to his daughter, and tried to pretend the moment didn't matter. But he didn't know how much it would change everything. Sparkles, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of doing good without expecting anything in return, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our W Insights. Your support helps us keep bringing stories that remind the world goodness still exists. Sparkles. The next few days passed quietly. Ryan went back to his routine of dropping Sophie at school, rushing to his construction job, and taking on extra shifts to pay the rent. Life was hard, but he didn't complain. At night, when Sophie slept, he'd sit by her bedside and whisper promises he wasn't sure he could keep. "Daddy's got this," he'd say softly. But 3 days later, his life took an unexpected turn. It was a bright Saturday morning when Ryan heard a car pull up outside his small rented house. He thought it was the landlord again. But when he stepped outside, he froze. A sleek black Mercedes sat in front of his gate, gleaming in the sun. The back door opened, and a man in a perfectly pressed suit stepped out, tall, clean-shaven, and carrying the kind of presence that only comes from power. Ryan's heart started to race. The man smiled politely. "Mr. Ryan Carter?" Ryan nodded warily. "My name is Richard. I'm the personal driver for Miss Claire Hayworth." Ryan blinked. "Claire? From the diner?" "Yes, sir. Miss Hayworth asked me to deliver something personally." Richard handed him a white envelope sealed with a golden emblem. Ryan hesitated before opening it. Inside was a simple handwritten note. "Ryan, you probably didn't realize that night, but you saved me in more ways than one. You stood up when no one else did. You reminded me that there's still good in this world. I'd like to meet you again, this time, not by accident. Please accept this as a small token of my gratitude." Beneath the note was a check for $50,000. Ryan almost dropped it. This has to be a mistake." Richard shook his head. "Miss Hayworth insisted. She also asked if you'd be willing to meet her tomorrow for lunch at her estate." Ryan's first instinct was to refuse. He wasn't someone who took handouts. I can't accept this, he said, shaking his head. I didn't do it for money. The driver smiled softly. She knows that, sir. That's exactly why she wants to help you. That night, Ryan sat at his kitchen table, staring at the check. Sophie looked up from her coloring book and asked, Daddy, are we rich now? He laughed quietly, tears in his eyes. No, sweetheart. But maybe things are about to get better. The next day, Ryan put on his best shirt, one without holes, and took a bus to the Hayworth estate. When he arrived, the gates opened slowly, revealing a mansion surrounded by gardens that looked like something out of a dream. It was another world, the kind of world people like him only saw from a distance. Claire met him at the door, looking radiant but humbled, wearing a simple white dress that contrasted the grandeur around her. She smiled when she saw him. You came. Ryan nodded, unsure how to act. I just wanted to thank you, but I can't accept the money. Claire looked at him for a long moment before saying softly, Ryan, I know you didn't help me for money. But sometimes, people like you deserve a break. You've been carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders alone. Let someone help you for once.